Good job. Well, now, next thing we're going to talk about is the Joule system. If you guys are unaware, they're now adding a Joule type system where you could socket something into the skill tree. Now, you're not limited to one Joule per person. You just have to have the Joule linked in the tree. You could see in the picture provided that any of the pathing that directs towards the Scion has a Joule slot. You could see one there on the bottom right. It's in the green wheel there, and then there's one directly to the left of the duelist as well, starting area.
Before you continue, it's important to know that this is not all the jewels, that they're going to add a lot more. Chris said they were aiming to have more than what's on the tray now.
20 to 24 is what he said. 20 to 24 possible. But right now, this is the beta, the beginning stages of what they have planned. Most of them you'll find either near wherever a charge is located, a +1 to charge, endurance, power, or frenzy, or on the pathing towards Scion is what we were teased at in these videos. Now, what do jewels do? There's several different types of jewels. Right, what we got here is you have your blue type jewel, where I'll have an implicit and an explicit. A prefix and a suffix, similar to how we have on weapons, where a suffix will be cast speed or attack speed or life gain on kill, and a prefix will be increased physical damage or maybe flat damage, spell damage, something like that. And you could jewel that right in, and they work similar to how gems work, where you could just put it in, right-click it out. So there is no regret orb type feature, and you could do these as many times as you want. So they actually want you to completely customize your tree without any downside. It's really interesting. And then, of course, the rare works similar, where you could probably have up to 3 prefix, 3 suffix. And then
it's 4. They said 4.
Oh, 4? Okay.
So I think they're limited to 4. Yeah.
My apologies there. And
kind of makes sense.
Yeah, you don't want it to be too overpowered. So if you're the kind of guy that doesn't want to use a unique jewel and you'd rather just go for the additional stats, you can totally do that. Or if you're the kind of guy that wants to have some of these uniques that are displayed, you can go for that too.
You can get some unique stats on these things, though, like ES on hit is one of the stats on the jewels, so things that you can't usually get.
Yep, and before mana gained on hit as well.
Oh man, make revelry not needed. Can I play Glacial Hammer now? But anyways, Dark Thoughts Cobalt Jewel is just one of the many uniques, and this one, if you have at least 70 intelligence, I've seen some that say 60, so maybe the parameters are 60 to 70. If you have at least 70 intelligence allocated within the radius, enemies have an additional curse. Now, the way how the radius works is, let's go back to this tree here. For instance, if you were to socket the jewel in the bottom left area of the Marauder, it will have a radius around it. And anything within that radius, if you have 70 intellect allocated there, you'll get +1 curse. Obviously, you don't want to do this as a Marauder, but if you're playing a Witch and you're already planning on dual curse from the tree, now you get tri-curse efficiently without corruption, wearing a unique. This changes the meta completely with cursing, at least in my opinion. It's a more efficient way to get more curses. The radiuses that we've seen so far are large and medium. And the radius, the size of it just goes up or down, really. What are you guys' thoughts on the whole new meta behind jewels? What do you think this is going to do to the game? Rise, for example. What do you think?
I think it's just going to revitalize, is that the word? Everything when it comes to build making, to be honest. I mean, there's so many of these things coming out. It might completely change everything. It might make old builds better. I don't think necessarily... it could. I mean, it depends what they add, but for right now, the way it seems is that it's going to just improve builds, I would imagine. And as they add new things, I'm sure you're going to be able to create builds out of this, even though there's very few of these slots. You can definitely make something happen. So I find it, I mean, it's an incredible concept. When I talked to Noogie about this, well, not specifically about this, but he, before everything happened, he pointed towards jewels, like Diablo 2 style jewels, and I really like that idea, but obviously the inventory thing is a problem. But maybe, like, this is also cool because, for instance, if you take snapshotting was kind of, none of us like it. But some people like to, for specific fights, change their stuff a little bit around, equip a flask or something like that.
Yeah, fine-tune for bosses.
Yeah, exactly. So for specific encounters, this would also make the game a little bit more complex. So very, very, very cool stuff.
Something I forgot to mention with jewels, they actually, there is no limit on how many you can do, but you actually have to have a point allocated connected to where the jewel will cost. So, it's not like you just throw the jewel in the tree and you get the benefit. It actually has to be connected to your pathing.
This is not a charm system. Not exactly.
So this might enhance the way how we play Scion. Scion, you know, she's been not so popular, but now that Scion's near so many jewel locations, is this a direct buff to her? Absolutely. There's a jewel currently, the Intuitive Leap gem, or jewel, excuse me. The radius is medium, so it's a little bit smaller, but what it does is passives in this radius can be allocated without being connected to your tree.
Let's talk about Intuitive Leap, right? So the idea is people like straight away jump to things like, oh, you'll be able to get Mortal Conviction without getting Blood Magic, and various things like that. Every location we've seen so far for Intuitive Leap, like this seems crazy, right? The ability to get a passive without having to actually route to it opens up so many things. But the locations we've seen over the tree for this is that Intuitive Leap just seems like, at most, a minor efficiency boost in some specific scenarios. Like it'll be like a min-maxing, saving 2 passives or 3 passives here and there.
Yep.
Like I've not seen anything major with this at all.
It allows you to pick up charges without having to get the fluff on the way, or you know, obviously life wheels. You want to pick up the whole life wheel on the way to the notable, so it doesn't really do anything for that.
Remember though, you're saving like 2-3 passives, but you're giving up a gem slot that could be life and damage and various other things. So
something I want to talk about is we have the pictures for them, but there were some, if you listen to the videos, there was one guy that said, for example, there's a jewel that converts strength allocated in the radius to critical strike chance. That is nuts. There is a video where a guy says that, and I'm like, wow, this is huge for staff builds. Or there was a gem that anything within the radius will apply to your minions, but not you anymore. And you're able to get acrobatics for your minions. This is crazy. Giving your minions acrobatics is just survivability in itself. So there's a lot of cool, unique ideas behind these jewels, or something that turns strength into dex. Anything within the radius, your strength is now dexterity. This saves you the pain in the butt trying to find your jewelry with dex requirements, or specking into those 30 dex nodes.
You can give your minions EE, all kinds of weird stuff.
I think the minion jewels I've seen so far are really good.
Is EE the only keystone available for something like this? I think so. When I'm looking at the skill tree, I don't see anything else.
We honestly don't know. We don't know what the tree has, and they gave us just an overview of how
more to be added. Obviously, as I was saying with Intuitive Leap, from what we've seen so far, Intuitive Leap is only a minor efficiency boost. Of course, they could add things, but I doubt they're going to add a jewel socket next to in Mortal Conviction. I don't think they'd do that. I don't think they'd do that. But yeah, at the moment, of course, things could change. We're just talking what we know at the moment.
And yeah, you could get EE, which is terrible, you know, because everything has hatred. So why would you want to make everything? You want EE. You don't want your minions to have EE.
Well, the best one I saw was like the Marauder area that was like a bunch of life nodes and a huge amount of resistances. I was like, that section for a summoner would be so good.
You don't have to use freaking Period Elements anymore or any of that crap.
Yeah.
Right. I have to explain myself. When I said add EE to summons, you wouldn't be using the summons for something like that. For instance, if the golems work kind of like Clay Golem in Diablo, their survivability is high enough to not worry about the defensive stats, so you wouldn't have to get invested into them, while you could have them running, and for instance, we don't know how the golems work. Maybe getting more fire damage gives them more life or something like that on the skill tree, so every class can run a fire golem, and then your build is like doing the opposite of it or whatever. I'm not quite sure.
That's what you're saying. You're playing an arc
stuff.
You're playing an arc, or your Chaos Golem has added fire attached to it. He does an AoE move. Now you get bonus damage. It makes sense. Yeah. It makes sense.
Yeah, I think we'll see quite a bit of potential for utility with things like this for, you know, off summoner classes, like Raiz was saying, for sure.
I think Volpact on minions is going to be absurd.
Oh yeah.
Reckon?
Yeah, well, yeah, your summons endgame do absolutely ridiculous damage, especially now, since we're able to get even more damage for our minions because of the new jewels. It's going to be absurd.
Was that within one of the AoEs? I don't remember being there, because I thought they moved Volpact.
I think Volpact's right by Duelist.
Yeah, they moved to where Volpact was. They put a jewel slot and they moved Volpact down further.
Then yeah, if
it should be in the radius.
If it's the blue one, then it is right inside the radius.
Yeah. What other ones? The Conduit. Conduit's a cool idea, but Conduit only works for players. So even if you give your minions Conduit, you're the only one getting the charges. Your minions won't be getting the charges too. I wish Conduit worked for minions, but it doesn't. It's an interesting idea, but fails in execution. But jewels completely, I mean, we really just need to see the 20 unique jewels. I'm hoping they're not too expensive. Really, that's what it comes down to. And, like, for instance, Army of Bones here, +2 to maximum skeleton, skeletal duration. You got this new bow. I'm really hoping they release a new type of summon skeleton. Like, that's what I'm banking on. I'm really hoping they do it, because there's a lot of skill gems we haven't seen yet. And, I don't know. I think this is one of the most interesting ways to completely change up your tree.
Yeah, this is crazy. So this to me is like a combination of the Jewel and Charm system from D2 with Path of Exile's spin on it, putting it in the passive tree so that it requires some passive investment as well. It's like an insane extra layer of customization because Path of Exile wasn't customizable enough. But something I'm curious about your guys' thoughts on. They mentioned that like, how do you guys think we'll obtain gems? Like, it seems obvious that they would be regular drops as well, but they said we start the game with some. That's what I remember hearing.
Act 2 normal they start to drop. Is what
okay,
I
but you also start off with some, so I guess that you can get one if you get to one of the jewel sockets early. You can chuck it in there. I find it weird that they give you one to start with. Like, apparently that'll be like when you start the beach with some scrolls, you get your weapon and gem, and that's, you know, you start off with the jewels as well.
I hope we get them from quest rewards. Honestly, there's so many quest rewards that are just fluff rares, and like, oh, cool, another wand that's gonna roll bad. You know, now we can get jewels that roll bad.
I want to say starting with a jewel is more geared towards newer players, so it helps them kind of figure out where they want to go. Because maybe, it is very, you know, when you pull up the skill tree for the first time, you're just like, well. So I think maybe that's the purpose of it, is just to guide them in the direction of where they want to go. Maybe.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, maybe that's
create like a basic starter build. That's a pretty cool idea, actually. Like, for instance, when I started off, I wanted to play, you know, I avoided life nodes because I wanted to play ES build character because I watched Crip play ES characters. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to avoid all life nodes. This kind of forces you towards, well, not forces you, but gives you an idea where you're heading and what to pick up. So I like it.
Are you a Crip fanboy? Confirmed?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
Yeah, I like his wall behind you.
Oh, man. If we get to talk about the closed beta stuff, Crip's gonna come up a lot. Trust me.
Oh man. Jewels in general. I honestly think not. You know, I think the ones that use in uniques, like specific to, I don't know, maybe +1 curse ones. You know, I think that's going to save you a lot of points. Honestly, maybe you're going to use multiple of the unique jewels. We might see a lot of builds that function like that, where you just use multiple uniques. We'll see. I'm really interested to see how this works. You know, is it going to save you points? There's going to be so much theory crafting behind this. I mean, people like you, Raiz, are just going to sit down and just like really have to think of ways to make these things extremely creative and useful at the same time. So it changes everything. It changes everything. It's no more just, you know, okay, I'm playing a ranger. I need thick skin. I need acrobatics. Like, you know, it changes the cookie cutter mentality, Jules, and I like that. Gives you the power.
If we could play slight devil's advocate here, do you think there would be any negative sort of outcomes for the feeling when making a build here? Because you're going to feel very inclined or pushed towards going for multiple dual slots in your passive tree, which means that you might pick routing that you might not have otherwise been happy with, especially for uniques. I mean, that's the same as keystones now, I suppose, but I don't know how you guys feel about that.
The unique jewel system? I'm glad, like...
Well, I just mean, like, that this might shoehorn you into taking certain routing on the tree even more so than what's currently already on the tree with keystones. It's like, imagine if they added a bunch of extra keystones that every build wants, then builds will start to look pretty similar, even more so. Like, do you think there's any potential negative outcomes to build diversity here?
So, judging based off as of right now, where all the jewels are located, they're in very... prominent spots, so they're not like in a weird location where everyone would go. So the spot they're at already, I think, is where pretty much everyone already goes. Like, if you're traveling on the outside, you're going to get the Marauder one. If you're going to Templar, pretty much everyone connects through there to get the LE damage. If you're going to a Witch, you're probably going for, like, I just think, like, right now how it is, it's okay, but I totally see what you mean by making it cookie cutter, how everyone would want to take this route because that's clearly the best spot there, and etc. But I think right now it's okay.
I mean, you think of a Witch caster build, almost every Witch caster build. Crit's a really popular caster meta, unless you're playing like Incinerate. You're always near that power charge. you're always near the Witch Power Charge, you know, so
Yeah.
that's a free jewel slot right there. Or at least one, you know, there's a lot of builds that path towards the Scion. Almost everyone goes towards the Scion wheel, the Scion life wheel. That's another 2 or 3 jewel sockets along the way. You know, I think really jewels are going to be probably better for the Scion than other classes just because she has the most pathing towards these. You know, if you really want to play a jewel type spec, she has probably the most readily available way to do so. It's really, we're just going to have to play it to understand it more.
Yeah, that's it. I think overall it's going to be like an immensely positive thing. I think this system is freaking amazing. But I wanted to play sort of devil's advocate here, thinking about whether this will maybe have some negative impacts on the way builds feel. Overall, though, like even if that is the case, the customization gems will offer will probably outweigh that negative.
Jewels, not gems.
Jewels, god damn it.
Did they say if you can have multiple of the same jewel?
It doesn't.
Yes,
in your,
that was
in your
mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
That was
can have
mentioned in
multiple of the
regards to
same.
the cursed one, yeah, and the skeleton one.
Yeah, this is like, that's the kind of thing we have to think about, Rise. It's like, obviously something you can't use, like the 70 intellect requirement for additional curse.
Yeah, that's why they have those requirements, I think.
But the strength one, the strength that converts to crit strike, I forgot what video it's in. There's a guy, he mentions it, and I was like, oh, I haven't seen this one yet. Like, are you going to sacrifice all that strength that you need for life or stat requirements to just become crit now? They're lowering crit on weapons. You know, is this something you want to do? It's pretty cool the way I have to think about it. Do I want to make all of my gems now convert strength to crit and just go ham? It completely changes the way you have to think about your tree. And like right now, pathing in a tree is, oh, you're playing crit arc, you need Valpak. Eventually, you're gonna need Valpak. You know, things like that. Does this change your mentality? And on the way to Valpak, there's a jewel slot. So now this is a direct buff to crit arc characters. You're getting like 2 or 3 extra jewel slots. Maximize that instead of just spending strength node, dex node, strength node, strength node. Okay, I finally have Valpak. Now you have an extra notable that you have control over on the way to it. So getting Valpak doesn't feel as crappy as it once did. That's how I feel, at least. Going down to mind over matter.
Sorry.
If you, like, for instance, going to get the mind over matter keystone is pretty crap right now, right? Because it's just a bunch of fluff nodes along the way. But now there's jewels along the way. Is this a buff to mind over matter? We don't know. Are they nerfing cloak again? We don't know. So this is a new way to think about keystones that are in not so optimal situations. Now you get a couple jewel slots along the way. It might be worth it to pick them up now.
I see what you're saying. It's a way to spruce up some boring areas of the tree, for sure.
Yep.
Cool. How do you guys feel about this will add an extra layer of currency cost and build requirements in terms of gear? Because this is essentially another form of gear. How do you guys feel about that?
I like it because now players have a step before or after achieving a 5 or 6 link. So a lot of people get halted when it's like, I have my 5 link, and it's like, okay, now it's time to save up, 15 exalteds before I get my 6 link. Now there's an extra step. And I really like that. There's an extra gearing process if you choose to take it to that extent. Because often I see a lot of players come in and they quit the game because they're just like, every character I make, I get stuck. I can't afford a 5 link. I can't afford a 6 link. What do I do now? I'm done. But now I feel like with jewels, maybe it's something more that they can play around with. They can throw their currency around, opposed to just buying gear. So I like it. I think it's something cool. Especially since they said you can craft them. I said in the future you can craft them. It was something like that.
You can craft the jewels.
You can craft them? Okay, yeah.
They showed it in the video.
And they also said, as of right now, there's no plans for the Jewel Master, but it's something they're open to in the future.
What about Varling, boys? What about Varling?
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah. You can't vol flasks. Maybe, who knows? We'll see what that is.
I hope he can vol gems. Get some jewels even. Or get some crazy things.
Very true. Is this, it could be a new way we see currency. Maybe there'll be a new currency to quality jewels in the future. And it just opens up a ton of options for ZiggyD to play with. This whole jewel thing.
Yeah, for sure. Right. And exactly, we were talking before about like what sort of masters can they add in the future, and now they add a new system that could potentially mean a new master and a whole bunch of other new things. It's a sick addition. It blew my mind. I really didn't expect something like this. That's crazy. But it's the perfect way to bring the feeling of jewels and charms from D2 into Path of Exile, I think, which is the real key.
Absolutely.
Big nostalgia factor, I reckon.
The fact that you could just sit around and talk about this for a half hour just shows the amount of theory craft that is going to be had with these jewels. I mean, I'm sure you guys the ball's going and you're just like, what is this going to do? It just changes everything. I love it. Hopefully, we do get a master for it, but I would like to see a Flask master beforehand. I think everyone wants to just pay 5 alts for a bleed Flask and then be done with it.
XYZ, XYZ. All of this promotes the trading system even more. I mean, it's pretty cool. I wonder how rare these things are gonna be, and like whether or not GGG can make it fun and not frustrating when it comes to getting these. Because I feel like PoE's community has a kind of a weird approach to
Change.
progressing with their character. Like, it just, some people get so freaked out about the fact that they can't get something because they don't know how to do it yet. So they freak out that they can't possibly get it because they don't have that knowledge yet. So this might, the more of this stuff happens, the more it really means that we need a more active trading system, I think. But that's on the way.
I think they're going to be, like, the average good price of a jewel will be similar to the... Eventually, the price will be about the same as a Spell Echo, unless it's just a really, really good jewel. You know, you think Spell Echo, it's at some point in your build, you're like, I need to invest into a Spell Echo. I need to get a multi-strike. Like, those little pricey gems, I'm hoping jewels are around that price, and you have the thought of, what do I need more? Do I need this jewel now, or do I need the Spell Echo more? I like the thought process where you actually have to think about what you're going to spend your money on. If you know, if you're the casual player and you don't have a lot of money, you have to, like, in the beginning of the league, do I need the jewel first, or do I need the Spell Echo? Do I need this unique? It just adds more of the thought process of what's more important for your spec at that time. Things like that are very important for diversity in this game.
Min-maxing.
Min-maxing, exactly.
And on top of it, I mean, it gives you back the, like, some people freak out when they first saw the skill tree. I was just like, this is Christmas. This is beautiful. So hopefully this is gonna give that feeling again.
It goes two ways, and it's gonna continue in that trend of, you know, some people freaking out and other people being like, yes, this is my game.
Yep.
This is my jam.
Very
so
true.
you brought it up, Rise, about this further highlights the need for an overhaul to the trading system. I mentioned it a couple podcasts ago, and I'm a bit sad that no trading system overhaul has even been mentioned in regards to the expansion yet, because that's leading me to believe there's a good chance it won't be coming, but I really hope it comes. I think this is such an important time. This is the biggest expansion. This is the biggest, like, change to the game since launch, and it's such a crucial time to grab a whole bunch of new players and keep a bunch of returning players, and a trading system, I think, is such a big deal for that, so I really hope they add it sometime in the beta. Really hope they're just holding off for now.
The trade system hasn't been announced, but they said Desync is no more. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I feel like an asshole for, like, being like, just step up your quality of life game when they've announced so much awesomeness. But I just think it's so, like, this even makes me want it even more. All of the other nice changes they've made makes me want it even more.
You entitled internet kid on a free-to-play game, Ziggy.
I am completely entitled to a new trading system.
It's so funny because when I was playing D3, all of this stuff was happening, and everyone in chat was like, freaking out, this is new, check this out. Everyone was just completely freaking out, and I'm here sitting, and I'm like, yeah, but, you know, D3 has, like, 2 new uniques. Well, PoE, like, announces this, like, 10 years of Wharf in, you know, in one expansion compared to other games.
Bosses.
It's ridiculous.
Like, honestly, you could picture, like, the Monster Truck Sunday guy reading these 70 new uniques. Like,
9 new bosses!
It's crazy. It's just absurd. Like, I was expecting, oh, cool, 1 new boss in Comb. All right, yeah. 9, what the hell? Yeah. So let's talk about that Desync change. So Desync, apparently, if I interject if I'm wrong here, any of you three, Desync now will be more dependent on your ping, and if you, for instance, if you click a spot that's very desyncy, you know, go through a doorway, if your character cannot go through that doorway, it won't move. And then when it can, you know, when, you know, where you would normally desync, your character would not move. And then when it can, it will actually go to that position. And the same thing is associated with lag. When your ping finally catches up, your character will move. Kind of like how, like StarCraft or some MOBAs function. This is huge for people who have very little ping, like Pox and I. We have like 5 ping right now because we live in Dallas. It's beautiful. I was so hyped. But if you're someone, for instance, in South America, they did leave the option of the current state of the game where if you have high ping, you could still play it the way it is now.
So here's what's going down. They're adding this new system called the deterministic lockstep, which basically forces complete synchronization between client and server. Now the trade-off is that there will be delay. That's kind of what Zeno was explaining there. So if you have a 200 millisecond delay, you click, then you wait 200 milliseconds, then your character moves. This is what we're seeing a lot of MOBAs and RTSs and stuff like that. Now this feels terrible at high pings. It feels unplayable when you're sitting like 400 ping or something like that. Whereas desync allows the game to be playable, you just occasionally get screwed over by desync. So that they're giving this a toggle option and a slider for like an automated switching. So if you have like if your latency changes over time, like during different times of the day, you can set a slider so that at 200 it changes to desync mode, or it changes to lockstep at below that. So the fact they're giving us an option and a slider for this, and then essentially completely removing desync and giving the option for something where when you have low latency, lockstep mode is going to feel pretty damn good. You won't really notice the delay. Oh my god, this is such a big deal. This is this is on par with the trading system in terms of the impact this will have for a lot of players returning to the game.
There's only one problem though with all of this. Ziggy and I, we game from time to time. He's in Australia, I'm over here in Dallas. This is annoying when you know, one person has a 300 ping constantly. It becomes an issue with party play across realms. That's my only issue with all this. Is it needed? Absolutely. You know, one person might have to bite the bullet and play old desync mode, as we're calling it. But that's the only downside. If you play with a lot of people, you know, for instance, if I play with a lot of Europeans, you know, it could cause some issues there.
I think that I'm still going to play with Lockstep, even if I have like a 300 or 400 ping, because potions were still delayed. And that's what keeps your character alive a lot of the times. Like, even if I'm on an Australian server and I click it, I still have to wait for my pot to go off. So that's not going to change regardless of what I'm playing on. And for me, that's really important. Like, if I see what's happening and I hit the pot, regardless of lockstep or not, it still has the delay time before it goes off. But I'd rather know where my character is and have it delayed than have my character be, you know, in a door 3 doors down, past a hallway in front of Brutus. So it's like,
it will feel worse at higher latencies to play in lockstep mode, but a lot of hardcore players are going to want that complete knowledge of where their character is and knowing that their character is never going to desync back into a room. Like, that's worth the slightly shittier play experience that lockstep will give. And this is not a cure-all. You can't just magic away the internet, the problems of having information travel across the world. Like, people are like, when are they going to fix internet? Like, it's one evil or the other, but at least now you get to pick your poison, and you get to have that reliability if you want that reliability, even at the cost of a shittier play experience, which it will be at higher latencies. But the second thing they've announced with this is they're adding a whole bunch of extra servers to different coasts of the US and to London and potentially other places too. So latency should get lower for people, and that should mean more people can use deterministic lockstep, or if they're using a desync mode, they will desync less. When I got the Aussie servers, I desynced a hell of a lot less.
That's really cool. I didn't know that.
Yep. Guys, what are your takes on this?
Chat?
Someone asked how do you show your ping, and now everyone's trolling.
I think defensively, it's exactly what Pox said. It's pretty cool. Like, when it comes to speed clearing or something like that, I mean, even if there's desync, you're still doing things, except you don't see them, right? It's just like you see the mob getting damaged later, but somebody with proper ping doesn't notice you casting and then the mob not taking damage, right? It's still a consistent flow, but you overcast because to you the mob is still alive, so you want to cast more because it's delayed. And in this, it's just all going to be slower, I guess. I mean, it all runs down to how big will the numbers be. Like, will somebody like me who has about like 80 ping on average, 80, 90 ping, will it make the game really, really fluent? And while in some other games it works, I just want to see it work in PoE, you know? I'm not convinced. Like, desync was never a problem to me, to be honest. Like, I've just like grown used to it. So
people really don't believe this.
I would like to see it.
You do learn to accommodate for desync, and it very rarely affects me. I've never once died to desync on a hardcore character. Sure, on softcore characters, because I tend to not worry about the things you can do to avoid desync a lot of the time. But yeah, you can do so much to mitigate desync that a lot of us have gotten used to it for sure. But it'll be nice to try the other mode in the beta, hopefully.
When I'm playing at a really fast pace and my life is constantly at like I could get one shot at any moment, or I'm doing silly
When you're
things
playing
like
with 0 armor.
yes, or if I'm doing like Palace Dominus or Flame Blast Exile and things like that, all it really takes for me is to just hit that sarcophagus and my character didn't actually run through, and then I get shot backwards. And there's no way of knowing, like sometimes you don't know if you're out of sync. If it's just something simple like that. Like there's a lot of things like, okay, going through a door, let me click it. All right, let me smoke mine now, clicking a box, OOS. You know, running through here, running through a pack of mobs, a big density, a row is charging, like, but there's some things you just don't know. Like it's just you're just like, oh, I didn't know that sarcophagus and you know that 72 map. Every time you step on it, your character goes left, right, up, down, and then you get hit by a flame blast. But I totally understand about the mitigating it. But it's the little things that'll kill you. Like when I was playing my Veil of the Night character, when I have 0% all resist, 0% everything. I made it all the way to, in hardcore, I made it all the way self-found to Cruel Dominus. And I started the Cruel Dominus fight, and I stood there. And I didn't even do anything, I was just sitting there. And then 10 seconds later, my guy dropped to 50% life. I didn't even know what, I did not even move. I just sat there, Dominus was just looking at me, and then 50 life. And I was just like, what even happened? So it's like, little scenarios like that, it's just nice to know 100% of what's going on.
It's nice to be actually like running a map and there's no mob that just looks like he's following you. You know, you get used to that one mob that's just chasing after you. Like he's not really there. He's not there, Exile. Ignore him. You know, and of course as a new player, they're like attacking him and getting frustrated. No more of that nonsense. Like please, mob, just go back through the doorway and come back to me when you got your crap together.
I might actually enjoy melee with Lockstep mode. Like, I think if I'm playing ranged, I'll probably keep it on Desync mode if I'm playing with other people. But if I'm playing melee solo, I'll switch to Lockstep mode because being able to actually click on mobs will probably be pretty enjoyable.
Yeah. That's why you never play melee skills. Melee.
It's one of the reasons I don't play melee, for sure.
Yeah. Same here.
You click on the mob, and the old Cyclone, for example, you start swinging, you're spinning to the left, but really you're spinning to the right, and everything... It's all jumbled like 5 seconds later, and you're like, what the hell happened?
Yeah. I think it's more towards as well that when you're always ranged, the mob is always just trying to get to you. But when you're in melee, the mob is actually trying to attack, and then you're dodging around, and he's hitting, but you can't see. But when you're always ranged, their goal is to just walk to you.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I think this is a step in the right direction. You know, how many times have you looked up a Path of Exile content and half the YouTube comments are, crap game, desync not fixed? Well, finally, you can put a can in it. They put half of their team to work towards fixing this. Be appreciative. And I'm going to call out Ziggy here. Just because the trade system isn't in yet, they are good guys and they always stick to their word. Even if it takes a while, they're
removing desync, man.
I like this podcast. Ziggy's the bad guy this time.
Yes.
I love it.
No more grumpy RaizQT.
I know. But just imagine, right? Imagine if they removed desync and fixed trading in the same patch. Holy shit! What would people even do? Every other genre would just disappear in the gaming world, and everyone would come play Path of Exile.
I would become a virgin again.
People would create altars with Chris Wilson's face on the top, as if they're not already. But it's what it would come down to. All right.
Like something that's really cool. Like one last thing, because like I talked with people about like body blocking. And something that's really cool, because body blocking kind of is necessary in the game to put you in those sketchy situations, at least I feel. So removing it completely would be bad, but it would be really freaking good for desync. Example being, you know, how much Cyclone helps if you don't target the mobs. It's all because everything's blocking each other, right? They just get clumped up. But like a really cool idea to combat desync for those people that won't be able to use the lock mode or whatever it's called. You can, for instance, make it so that you get a quartz flask on flask usage, and that would be, I think, really cool. Like 2 seconds of just free mobility, like a quartz flask, if you use a flask. So that would promote like more active play while reducing desync. I think that's a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, agreed.
That's neat, actually. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, somebody brought it up. I think that would be so good for desync. It'd be amazing, because you don't really feel it on, well, often you don't feel it on a ranged character, but for melee it's hell.
It's a big change. It's been needed for a while, and props to GGG for, you know, most of their changes come from what the community suggests, and that has been one of the biggest problems for them. I'm sure the word desync, if you said it in the office, they want to punch you in the face, and now it's like solved. I would not want to be GGG after
I mean,
desync for 2 years straight.
I said it would never happen, man. I've always told everyone, I was like, desync's not going to be removed, guys. They're not just going to be able to fix it. There's not going to be a switch where you can just turn it off, guys. That'll never happen. And then what does GGG do? Well, fine then.
Yep.
If you want to play desync,
It was the same for me.
go play Ragnarok Online. That is desync. Like it was pretty bad in PoE, but there was far worse games that had it, and I'm glad they finally adjusted it. Let's move on. Let's talk about a little bit more hype. We'll go back into some hype of some things here.
Maybe we should talk about something a little bit less hype first before we move back into more hype. Should we talk about the nature of the announcement and the beta, because there's been a bit of discussion on this?
Yeah, go ahead. You can spearhead this one, Ziggy, because this is more your element.
Sure thing. So, the Awakening was announced for a while now. They've been saying that there'll be an announcement soon. There's going to be a countdown timer. Everyone's getting very excited, and then they give the announcement. Everyone is looking at all the stuff they're announcing. They're really desync. God damn, it's all so freaking amazing. And then there's a countdown timer. Yes, super hype. 10 days. What? But then it's 10 days for a 6 to 8 week beta. So. Firstly, my thoughts are that a beta test is absolutely essential for something of this scope. Like this patch is huge. This expansion is massive. It needs beta testing. Secondly, I don't personally think they could do an open beta. I think that would be a terrible idea, because then a bunch of people are going to come and try an unfinished and unbalanced and probably buggy experience and then never return. I don't think that's a good idea. I think they can get the size they want with a closed beta. I think the real issue here was the fact that they gave a countdown timer for a beta that probably some people are not going to be able to play. I don't know. How do you guys feel about the way they announced this and the whole beta thing?
Okay, so beta, I'm going to go out and say, it's a double-edged sword. GGG is investing over $1 million per new act. They've said it in the past, and it makes sense to want to do a beta and have a beta, because if you're investing that much money, you don't want it to be a flop, and there goes your investment. I can totally stand by that. But 6 to 8 weeks puts a really bad taste in the community's mouth, because there will be more people to get into beta, and if you by chance don't get the key, you're stuck watching streams, if we're allowed to stream it, and you're stuck following the hype on Reddit and things like that, and that's where it gets a salty taste in my mouth. I think it's, the best thing about PoE is Beyond comes out, everyone's like, make a new Beyond character, we're all on the same page, we're all learning at the same time. Same thing with Bloodlines, we're always on the same page, and the beta kind of puts people on an unfair advantage, or people get to experience the hype before other ones. And I could totally understand the rage and the salt behind it. But think from a logistical business standpoint. If you're investing that much money into something, a beta kind of makes sense. I wish they might have hinted about a beta beforehand rather than 10 days beforehand. I mean, that's what bothered me the most. In fact, I was kind of pissed when I first read that. I really feel that the community overall does deserve more time than a 10-day notification about a beta.
I think, if they had been a bit more clear that they were planning a beta, I don't know, maybe they decided at the last moment they absolutely needed a beta. Probably not, but I think if they had been a bit more clear about a beta in advance, then people would have not gotten so hyped for the announcement of a beta.
Exactly. It was disheartening, because it's like you see the picture and it's like sign up for beta now, and you're like, what? And then you scroll down and see all this awesome stuff and it's sign up for beta now, and you're like, what do you mean?
So there is going to be no NDA on the beta. That's been confirmed. Chris said there's likely not going to be an NDA on the beta. I think there probably won't be all the content in there. I think at the very least the final boss fight, the Beast, won't be in there. At the very least, they'll want to keep something for launch. I think they could potentially do that. I mean, I hate spoiling things for people. I hate it, because there's so many people that don't want to see like the bosses and the mobs and stuff like that. But I'm not going to not play this and not stream it and not test it and not try and make it as the best expansion as I can, like with whatever I can do. But I still hate that feeling of spoiling people. So it sucks. I can totally understand the saltiness about it. I'm pretty salty about it too. But I can't see any other way they could do it, really.
Yep.
I don't know.
I'd have to totally agree. I wish they gave us, like, kind of just going over again, I wish they kind of prepped us for it, like a couple months beforehand, like informing us of how they're going to approach it. But just also something else for people to note, a good reason why, like another reason in addition to why it is a closed beta and not an open beta, think of how many people play a beta, especially if it's 6 to 8 weeks, play the game for 3 weeks, complete the game in their mind, get bored of it, and then don't play the actual release because they did everything they wanted to do.
Exactly.
I don't agree with them putting a countdown timer because we didn't know ahead of time, but since it's already there, this is pretty much the approach they have to take. Like, you don't really have many options, guys, when it comes to testing, especially as Ziggy was saying, when you have something at the magnitude of this. I mean, there's just so many things that could just be overpowered or imbalanced or just insane. And you gotta, I don't know, it's just for new players that are coming into the game, they don't want that experience. So,
and it is honestly a double-edged sword. It makes sense completely. You know, you don't want another Invasion launch. You don't want another Beyond launch. It makes sense. They're investing a lot of money into this. So beta is a good idea. The timing wasn't good, and I can anybody who's got a salty taste in their mouth right now, I completely understand why you're pissed off. Because, all right, for instance, we're streamers. Chances of us getting a beta key, I really don't know, but it's probably going to be pretty good. We're free promotion for the company. Let's be completely real about this. Now,
in addition to the promotion, there's also the force multiplier testing that a streamer can do. Like, I talked about this a bit recently. When you are, like, think about all the times you miss, like, a chaos orb or a specific nuance of a piece of text. When you have, like, a couple hundred other people watching you, like, they pick up on that, and then a discussion happens about it all the time. So you get to test things on, like, you know, many times over what you can do as a solitary player. Like, when we look at the text of this new skill, I mean, if I miss something on it, one of the other couple hundred people watching me are gonna pick up on it, and we're gonna talk about it, and it's gonna get tested more thoroughly. So I think there's some interesting, unique sort of testing experience that can happen out of a streamer as well, even aside from the promotional aspect.
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing is, let's say we have 300 people in chat, hypothetically. We'll probably be more because it's Act 4 hype. There's nothing worse than, like, look how much fun I'm having and you guys aren't having this fun. Like, that's where my problem is with the beta. Like, I think it's like super hit or miss. But then again, if I was a company spending $1 million on an act, I would want a damn beta. So to everybody out there who's pretty upset about it, I understand where you're coming from.
How do you feel about Rise? What's your feelings overall?
This entire thing is so weird to me because people told me you guys were pretty mad about this, and everyone's being really reasonable. I was hoping to get some big argument going, but like you guys are being really reasonable. I mean, there's upsides and downsides to everything, exactly like you said, both edges of the sword, and it's difficult to judge. I mean, is it better that, for instance, a streamer like you guys said gets an invite and 300 people can watch the chat, and for instance, taking Crip can Crip discovered a lot of bugs, a lot of imbalances, and all this stuff, and he had chat to help him out. But isn't it better for those 300 people that are watching the stream to be playing the game? Yeah, but it's also a resource problem. I mean, I really, because it's not behind an NDA, I don't see a reason for it being a closed beta outside of like a resource problem where they simply cannot, invest that much into it. But like in a year, not even, let's say 6 months, everyone's going to forget about it. And a beta is the most brilliant thing ever. I mean, look at Invasion, look at Order of the Frozen Sky, look at the Desync
we're gonna be able to test
Onslaught.
all that shit before it comes out. Exactly.
I mean, it's such a big deal. I think it's amazing that they're doing a beta. I wish they would have done it sooner. I mean, you could be an alpha tester, but considering you would be the only one playing on the server and you wouldn't be able to trade, and there were no increased drop rates or any of that, it was impossible basically to alpha test or beta test anything. So I love it. The only thing that I dislike is the timer. It's kind of,
they should.
That's
give us
just
more
kind of
time.
rubbing it in my opinion. They're just rubbing it in.
The timer. The timer. I think the timer is the worst part of it. I think the timer for a beta it fuels the salt so much. I mean, there's two forms of salt. I totally understand one of them. One of them is this idea of a beta and the way it was announced and all of that. A lot of what we talked about already. The other form of salt is it's not fair. I can't play. I won't be able to play. I won't get in the beta. And that form of salt, I don't really. I mean, this is not just to play and have fun. That's not what the beta is for. The beta is for testing. The beta is to ensure that this is a smooth launch. This is not. you're not entitled to play the beta for fun. I hate using that word entitled, but this is
But
not
there
just
will
so
be
you can
fun
get in and have fun
incorporated
with it.
with it, which is where that comes from.
Yeah,
Like
I mean-
this is using, wow, this Joule system is really cool, and you're not playing it. Like that's how I see the beta.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's,
I guess
don't
I
know.
can kind of understand it.
So I wanna take this back a little bit and let's see. Is it Domination that had the shrines in it?
Yes.
Or okay, so Domination, let's talk about what was messed up there. There was this shrine called the Thorn Shrine that 99% of you guys probably don't know about because it was removed. Basically, the Thorn Shrine is if you attack any mob in there, you attack all the mobs and then you die. Rip your character. Okay, moving up. What came after that? Was it Invasion?
Nemesis.
Nemesis.
No, Nemesis also had Camouflage Predator, but Invasion was next after that, yeah.
Okay, so Invasion. Invasion had a lot of bosses that were not very nice and would kill you off the screen. Let's talk about Chaska, would kill you almost instantly. There was Rima, which, still pretty much kills you instantly. Mobs that would create firestorms that last forever that you just dive to, and tons of other stuff. Then, moving up, what came after that? Was
Beyond.
that-
Allies
Okay,
have life
Beyond.
regen. Allies
Yep.
have life regen.
In
life
Beyond,
regen.
Beyond we had mobs that had almost double the life they had now, on top of having life regen mobs or affixes with more life regen, with stacking life regen, and you physically could not kill some mobs unless you had like leveling gear. Then take it up a notch, and then
Sword
then we
rose
had,
with haste. Oh my god.
Yep. Then on top of that, we had Order of the Frozen Sky and some other stuff. And every single one you date back to, people will complain. I even complained. I opened a box and died. I mean, I'm stupid for doing it without lightning warp and stuff, but I died regardless. And then things get changed off that. No matter what GGG's approach is, you're gonna be mad. I mean, there's no correct. That's the point I'm trying to make. There's no 100% absolute perfect way to release anything. Something is always gonna be messed up. So, just wanted
This
to
is the
enlighten you a little
perfect
bit.
way, but for
Yeah,
the long
it is.
for the long run,
I mean-
it is the perfect way in my opinion. There's just nothing you can do outside of this.
I mean, yeah, it was going to be there's bad aspects of it no matter which way they went. I mean,
Right.
if they do an open, like a fully open beta, then like 95% of people play because it's a new expansion pack.
See,
And
my
that
only-
they see that as the start of the new expansion pack, and it's crap, and they never can return. They miss out on a whole bunch of players. Do a closed beta, there's a lot of kind of saltiness and a sour taste in the community for 6 to 8
Agreed.
weeks when people can't get in. I mean,
And
what could
it's
they
not
have
like
done?
nothing's going to be happening in between. Like that's the thing. There's going to be stuff happening. They did say that there's at least 2 things going to happen. So 1 month is one thing. I would assume that the beta isn't the other one. We're not going to have 6 to 8 weeks of.
You know what will be
Just
pretty funny
nothing
though,
now.
and this would be perfect. And I kind of hope GGG does it because this will be like, because everyone's like, oh, you're just, it's easy for you to say this because you're guaranteed to be in the beta. Well, this will be like the perfect like kind of drawback, I guess. If they do the league we've been talking about, where they combine all of the challenge league mechanics and they do like a 2-week race with that, you know how much we've all been excited to play that? They do that once we get in the beta. They're like, all right, beta's open, and for you guys who are not in the beta, consolation prize, you get this freaking amazing league. And then we're like, oh shit, man, I really wanted to play that. So
I mean,
that
unless
would be
there's
at least
something
small
competitive
drawback at least.
unless there's something competitive in the beta where people are actually gonna race and try and level and stuff like that, I would probably and compared to that, there's going to be a race on like the open servers, I guess. I would do the race. I won't do the
Yeah.
beta. So
I mean,
that's
I would
probably just me, but
I would mess around in the beta, but I would try the race if they did that race. I'd totally play it. But I would still mess around in the beta just to be like, oh, that's cool, just to learn just the basic stuff because you still want to learn. It gives you this unfair advantage. The one thing I want to say though about GGG, I'm definitely overly positive as a whole about that company. But one thing I want to kind of dime out, and I could be completely wrong here. The Q&A team, I don't know exactly their full job. I don't know their timeline. I don't know, like Beyond, for instance, was a little bit of a rush league. They made it in about 2 weeks. They even said on an interview we had with them. But how does something like a level 8 character on Ledge you can easily achieve in 2 weeks? How do you not notice allies have life regen, allies have life regen, life regen? You don't need a beta to notice those things. So hopefully in this beta they have all of those like overly obvious, overpowered mechanics, gone. Like Orders of the Frozen Sky is a perfect example. Obviously you need about a merciless character to run into this problem. But that is something that should have been caught by the QA team. And I hope with Act 4, there's so much involved that they really spent a lot of time. I know the QA team was probably swamped with looking for things like this, mechanics like this that are extremely overtuned. And I'm not saying you guys are bad, but sometimes I'm like, how does this slip through the cracks? This is so obvious. But that's my only thing.
I think you get, when you're working on something, you get tunnel vision. Like when you write a text document, you'll read it multiple times and you'll miss the spelling mistakes. But when someone else sees it, straight away they see the error. I think that happens, and it's probably a pretty small team as well for QA for GGG.
I mean, that might be what happened with Bloodlines, to be honest, because like it seems like GGG at some point has changed their ways. Like the challenge leagues, so to say, were supposed to be somewhat of a test for the core game. Now they're kind of the core game, but they still do very little balancing during the league, which is kind of weird. They used to do more, but now they kind of do things that instantly kill you, and that's it. Like P-Link, Necrovigil, all this feedback that they got, they really didn't respond to it. They didn't balance it. They didn't say anything at all. So maybe this was another thing that makes us realize that a beta really is more and more necessary for stuff like this. But might be just coincidence. I don't know.
Well, I think that's all I really got to say about the beta. I know we understand the saltiness. We can